Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1163A, and today's date is December 27th, 2016, and the title of the episode is First Cash Ban? Now Europe proposes confiscating gold to crack down on terrorists. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I placed an interview on the X22 Report Spotlight with Louis Camersano. You can go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It should bring you right to the video. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the video there. Or you can go to newssentinel.com. Same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, today we can see the market is inching its way up to 20,000 points, and we can see all over the corporate media, the financial channels, they're telling us that will it get there? We don't know, and we see it bobbing up and down as we move closer and closer to Friday, and I still believe when we look at the situation right now and what they've been doing, it does appear that they are going to push the Dow up over 20,000 points when we hit Friday. Now, of course, this is not a sure thing, but when we get into their heads and what they're thinking and what they're trying to do, they're trying to make everyone believe that the year of 2016 and the 8 years that Obama's been in office, the economy has been incredible. And to finish this off, what they need is the Dow at 20,000 points. And we can see we're at like 19,540, I should say, 19,550, and it's bobbing up and down, and all we really need is 40 to 50 points, and that is very easy for the plunge protection team to do and the high-frequency traders to push this over the edge here. And I do still suspect that they will do this on Friday. We will see. Doesn't mean I'm right here, but it does seem that this is the direction we're going in. Now, we know that the UMich, last time we reported, well, it hit all-time new highs. It surged. Everyone has hope. And now we see the conference board is doing the same exact thing, where it has surged in November from about 109 all the way up to about 113.7. And we can see this is all following the same path here, where everyone believes in the illusion that everything is great. Now remember, the conference board, they receive grants from the government. They're under the total control of the government, and they pretty much do whatever the government wants them to do, and whatever they want them to report, that's what they do. And we can see that they are now covering all bases. Stock market all-time new highs. Unemployment down to 4.6%. GDP revised to 3.5%. Real estate, they're trying to convince us that existing home sales, new home sales, with mortgage applications declining, mortgage rates increasing, well, they broke all records. And here we are with Shiller now, talking about the National Home Price Index, saying that according to October's Shiller data, that U.S. home prices have never been higher since July of 2006 peak. Now, again, we have to look at what's been going on here. And if we look at Shiller home price year over year, we see that it really hasn't gone anywhere. It's been pretty much flatlined. And actually, the prices have come down. If you really look at this, since the height of the market back in 2006, we hit the height of the market in 2013, and it dropped in 2014, and we have been steadily on a level playing field, which means we're getting ready to drop once again. But of course, they need to play this all up, make it look like the economy is doing much, much better than it really is. And we could see why they're doing this. And one of the reasons is Obama wants to leave office with the economy looking like it has completely recovered. It has recovered completely, and it's even improved compared to 2008. And we know this is one gigantic illusion, because remember, when the market came down in 2008, the stock market was only at 14,000. Now, when he's leaving office, it will be at 20,000. But we know that all of this because we've been looking at the hard data, the economic information, and this reminds me of 2008 with the subprime securities when everyone was believing that real estate was going to continually move up, the stock market was going to continually move up, that this party could never end, and there were a few individuals looking into the subprime security saying there is something very wrong here. And, they discovered this back in something like 2006, 2007, and each year that went by, they couldn't understand why the economy was still where it was. Why didn't it collapse yet? Well, this is what we're seeing right now, because when we have been looking at all the underlying data, we see that the economy is flashing collapse. We're in a recession right now. It is flashing collapse right in front of our eyes. We see out in Europe, well, the ECB is going to be lowering Deutsche Bank capital requirements, well, because they need to pay bonuses. So they're saying, okay, you know what? Don't put as much into capital requirements. Don't worry about that. We'll lower your level. This way you can hand out the bonuses. We see people are taking their funds out of the banks in Italy, Monti de Paschi. Well, they have capital shortfalls right now, and it looks a lot worse than it did just a couple of days ago. They need to plug a capital shortfall of about 8.8 billion euros, 76% greater than the previous 5 billion euro gap estimated by the bank. And we see already that things are getting worse and worse as time goes on, and things are starting to break down. We see the U.S. Department of Energy, well, they're looking to sell off some of its strategic petroleum reserve as soon as January. And Congress has authorized the Department of Energy to sell about 375.4 million worth of oil in its recent budget resolution. And they're saying that the sale of the oil, well, that is going to help improve the storage facilities. And we see right now that these reserves, well, they're held in salt caverns in Louisiana and Texas. They were set up decades ago in the aftermath of the Arab oil embargo in 1973, which really means that's when the United States was pushing the petrodollar onto all these Middle Eastern states, and they were adjusting everything as we came off the gold standard. The SPR system can hold more than 700 million barrels of oil. This is the largest strategic stockpile in the world. And the question is it really to make improvements of the storage area, or does the U.S. government central bankers actually need the funds? Because as we can see with FACTA, GATCA, and what is happening here in the United States, they don't have enough revenue being brought into the government to pay for this debt. And if interest rates are moving up, this is going to be a huge problem. The Fed admits that the good old days, well, they're never coming back. Where we saw 5, 6, 7, 8% interest rates, right now they're saying, well, we're not seeing this. We're not going to be returning to normalcy anytime in the future. And we know that the Fed was never going to bring the interest rates up that high. They might go that high on their own as the Fed loses control, but we can see that the Fed raising the interest rates by 25 basis points, that was the signal that this economy is ready to be brought down, because they can't let the interest rates move up. It would be a complete disaster. The debt, the U.S. government would not be able to service it. The housing industry would come to a screeching halt, and we would have major problems. So to me, it really makes no difference at this point, because we're headed towards a collapse scenario. And they know this. They know there's no other place to go. We see out in Europe, where it all started, where they were going to ban cash. We saw it in India. We saw them talking about getting rid of cash, getting rid of the 500 euro note. And now the European Commission, well, they're proposing tightening controls on cash and precious metals that are transferred outside of the EU under the guise of shutting down one route for funding of militant attacks on the continent. After the Berlin Christmas attack, which is a complete false flag. The EU is using the idea that they're going to go after terrorist financing. They're going to be going after prepaid cards. They're going to be going after cash. They're going to go after precious metals. They're going to be going after Bitcoin. And part of it is those people who are carrying more than 10,000 euros in cash, they already have to declare this at customs when entering the EU. The new rules would allow authorities to seize money below that threshold where there are suspicions of criminal activity. The Commission is also considering whether to set up EU-focused terrorist financing tracking programs. The Commission is also proposing common rules for the 28 EU countries on freezing terrorist financial resources and confiscating assets even from those thought to be connected to criminals. So cash, Bitcoin, precious metals, prepaid cards over $150 are all instruments of the terrorists, and they are now open to confiscation if you are a suspicious person. And we can see why they're doing this right now, because when this system comes down, they will need to confiscate funds. They will need the precious metals. They will need currency. They will need anything they can get their hands on. And they're setting it up, of course, to say that they're going after suspicious people. But pretty soon, everyone's going to be suspicious, because if you're carrying it, you're holding it, we're coming after it, we're taking it, the end. And we know back in 1930s, when the Great Depression hit, the government said, listen, give us your gold, we'll give you $20 for each ounce, and we'll give you paper for your precious metals. Now, they didn't confiscate it, but in a way they did, because as soon as they took it, the price of gold went up to $35 an ounce. So you were kind of ripped off, because they needed the gold. The same thing is going to happen during this major collapse. And this is why you need to be prepared. You need to make sure that your valuables are hidden. You don't keep them in safety deposit boxes or anything like that, because don't let anyone know where it is, and never admit that you actually have it. That's my personal opinion. Because when this collapse hits, the government, they will be looking for funds. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.